Greetings, Marsh here, and welcome to episode 20 of my modded Factorio playthrough. In this episode, we need to centralize and build all of our stone processing buildings and continue to move all of the ingot and plate buildings as well. I mean, it would make the most sense belts-wise to place it right here. As you can see by how quickly things are becoming straight, I care about the straightness of belts. But it might crowd future processes if it's placed right there. So it does probably need to be somewhere out here, in a similar place to where it was. So probably in this forested area right here. And is that a tree? Special tree? But to find out what we need here, we can look at this, and hopefully now it kind of makes sense why I organized it like this, is because it makes it easier to separate the processes later. So we need 4 total crushers, and this is 4 crushers for everything in the base, including what we do from the electrolyzer. So we need 4 of them crushing slag, and then 10 assembly machines turning them into stone, and then the 15 stone furnaces. No more trees. And luckily we got another swamp tree in that. Okay, I noted that my belt math was wrong before because of that change, so it means that we need 18.2 total belt speed, which is more than 1 belt, but I kind of don't want to place 2 at the moment, so we'll see if this clogs up or not. But that's only if everything is running at full blast, which it may not do. But if we need to place a second belt, so be it. Slag on the left. Crushed stone will come in. This will create more crushed stone. And we're going to have 2 belts worth of crushed stone. So after the 5 crushers, we'll need 13 assembling machines. And don't worry about constructing stone walls or anything, because that's going to happen on whatever bus this ends up being placed on. And then that's going to go off to the side and wherever the bus is over there. Seems like underneath here is a pretty good place. There we go, that ought to work just fine. Now we need to deliver fuel, which is going to be the one with the coal in it. Alright, here it comes. It's probably going to overload the system where it's all just the crushed stone and not the slag, but this isn't necessarily the most natural of tests, so it may not work properly. And to some extent, it is limited by the belt, so it can't quite run at 100% with just a single yellow belt. But if we need to, we need to. We'll see how this works with 1. Yeah, seems about like I expected. Running mostly at 100%, but not completely because of the belt limitation. It's getting a lot more sparse in here. Now that all these things are getting moved around. We probably want to have silos here to absorb the ore based on the conditions. We don't have the circuit network yet, but we can kind of create that same logic just with how we place things. So the first one here needs to be the same as this setup, where it has a priority based on where the ingots came from. Okay, I think I've got it designed here. I'm rather proud of this compact little thing. But here's a description of what happens. So on the right, we have a belt of iron and copper from sapphirite. On the left, we have a belt of iron and copper from steatite. Now, steatite, we want copper, and sapphirite, we want iron. And because we don't have a circuit network, things get to be a little complicated. So the output comes down through here. There's these two splitters. What it's going to do is split the output between the thing we want and the byproduct. So in the case of iron, we want iron, and the byproduct is copper. So it goes into the byproduct silo. And copper, iron goes into the byproduct silo. Now what's left in the middle are the primary products, which then go through another splitter to sort them between iron and copper. Then they go underneath, and then they get recombined with the things that are in the silo, but the silo gets priority because it's a byproduct and we want to get rid of it quickly. And in the end, we'll have two belts, one of iron, one of copper, and the priority would have been given to the byproducts. So what's weird is we are producing iron and copper with sapphirite, but I'm giving priority to the copper from sapphirite. And I'm giving priority to the iron from steatite. This will allow both machines to run with a circuit condition, basically, without them running continuously. Now, this design, of course, could be made smaller by, cutting a few rows out, so you can make this much more compact. But I kind of like to see what's happening, so I added these extra belts in there to see. Assuming that it works, we can compact it a bit. So let's see how it works. What should happen is all this stuff's going to flow in, and then it's going to make it to the bottom, and then both machines stop. I want it to where they don't fill up the silos, because you see how we don't have any limitation on the silos. So if this logic is incorrect, it's just going to keep pumping the silos full of iron and copper, and I don't want that. So let's see how it works. And how about, let's get a light over here so we can see what's going on. So fingers crossed this works properly. Ah, it's backwards. I was like, wait a second. Hey, look at that, it stopped. Okay. Two belts of random mixed stuff went in. Two belts of clean stuff comes out. And even though there's no limitation on these silos, it's not running. Yes! That is what I wanted to see. So now, it's time to compact this and figure out where we want to place it. Don't want to put it right up against here, because we might have other belts and stuff coming through here. You never know. So how about, I mean, we can give it a ton of space and put it like right here. Sure. Okay, what about the other side? We kind of do need to have, it's not going to be exactly the same, but we need to have some silos over here as well, because some of these are byproducts. Nickel is a byproduct, and silicon as a byproduct. Now we're using the nickel. We're not using all of the silicon. The problem is if it clogs up, then we're not going to get the primary thing we want, which is tin and lead. So we need to have somewhere for the byproduct to go as a buffer so the system can keep working. Okay, that should be it. It's much simpler. It looks very similar. It's just not much is going on here. It's just we have a splitter here, so the tin is getting bypassed and being placed on its own belt. And the silicon is being placed in the silo and then gets its own belt. And let's see how this works. Again, ideally, it shouldn't run continuously. Just enough so the primary products go through and the byproducts do not hold up the process. Cool. That is what I would expect. We do still need to hook up this slag that comes from all the way down here. Although that's actually going to get moved itself shortly, so I guess we don't really need that belt after all. It's going to be somewhere else. Okay. Actually, having them like this makes it a little easier because logistically we only needed one of each furnace because it was one from the primary one and then half from the other one. But the base is only ever set up to run on one to begin with, so this will be less furnaces accomplishing the same job. So let's just I'll place them down here and then we'll figure it out. Okay. Now we need to get coal down here, or some type of fuel. Well, it would come down via this. Although I did the logic of this wrong. Because that is only affecting the fuel belt here. Needs to go up there. Alright, so which one of these was the fuel belt again? So bottom is fuel, top is carbon. We'll fix that in a bit once we clean up the rest of the belts. Anyway, lots of random splitting going on here. Okay, fuel's coming in. Let's give this a try and see how it works. Oh, that might be because of that. There we go. Wonder if these need to be. I'll just replace them all just in case they do kind of cause those problems. We'll have to stress test it later and see how it works. But so far so good. Ingots done there. Now we need to do the same thing for tin and lead, but also silicon and nickel. We'll just leave this sulfur dioxide gas here. I don't think we can move it right now because I don't think we have pumps. Correct? Correct. So if we pick it up, we'll end up losing all that stuff that's in there. Or we could just leave it where it is and deal with it some other time. And hopefully maybe make this look a little cleaner. And then finally the glass we have to manually burn. And again, glass isn't used for too much right now. Oh, it's used in the chemical plant now. I did not know that. Mainly solar panels, I think, are the place where we're going to dump all the glass. And then some of these higher tier things do require glass. That's actually new from when I played previously, where it looks like they integrated glass into more things. So that's cool. Oh, and fiberglass boards. So we should create glass. We do have uses for it. Alright, so if we link it, we need 4 furnaces. Easy enough, and we can't do this with a blast furnace because that requires the next tier. Although we could research it easily enough once we have that next science pack level, but for now we'll do it this way. So let's hook it all up and see how it works. We don't have the chemicals hooked up, so only 2 of these lines are going to operate correctly. But that's okay. Well, so far so good. I wonder how much power we're producing. Actually not that bad right now. Okay. Oh, now we have to do the chemicals. Not excited. Alright. Let's get this over with. The reason why I'm not excited about it is it's just one building. One building of this, one building of that. So there's no nice, pretty ratios. It just looks ugly. Okay. I'm fairly proud of that. It's pretty clean setup for what needs to happen. But, so the water comes in, gets electrolyzed, the slag gets sent down here and just combined with that belt, and it produces the hydrogen and oxygen. Oxygen gets used to make lead and gets stored here, the byproduct. Then hydrogen comes down and goes into the reverse gas shift, or reverse water gas shift, which requires the hydrogen and carbon dioxide, produces purified water and monoxide. Monoxide goes in here, and the dioxide comes from coal, so it comes all the way down in here. The purified water goes up in here and gets electrolyzed back into the oxygen and hydrogen, and if there's an excess of hydrogen, it gets burnt off. But we also need to have the tanks and whatnot. So this needs to be a top-off valve, and then we need a tank for hydrogen and water. You don't have to have it go through the tank for it to work properly. So you can just kind of put it right there, or you can put it right there. Not sure what would look better. Kind of like it being up. And then one for hydrogen. It could go here if this is just placed up by one. If it just goes right there. And the overflow valve is up there. Like that, but it would be smaller if the tank is over here. Smaller and more square. And you know, smaller and more square is better. I think that's it. Well, let's fire it up and see what happens. Actually, not much is probably going to happen because it's going to be loaded with ingots. And that's the end of this episode. We're getting pretty close to done here on the next one. The only thing we have left to do is produce the plates and get them onto the bus. And then from there, we can start expanding. I'll see you there.